A person earning $120,000 a year may be poorer than a person earning $55,000. This is not a paradox, it's statistics. According to a study conducted by Lending Club in collaboration with pimps.com, 63% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck in 2023. This figure has long ceased to be surprising. But here's what's surprising. Among people earning between $100,000 and $150,000 per year, the figure was 45%. Nearly 1 in 2 people with a six-figure income couldn't afford to miss a single paycheck without financial consequences. 1 in 2 with a six-figure income. Think about that for a second. We're talking about people who earn double, even triple, the median American family income. People who will tell you at any party that everything is fine. People who have a new car, a trendy neighborhood, subscriptions to everything imaginable, and a vacation once a year. And yet, they're just one lost paycheck away from crisis. I know a man, I'll call him Michael. Michael works at a fintech company in Austin, Texas. 3 years ago, he got a raise from $72,000 to $95,000 a year. It was great news. He deserved it. And here's what happened next. So predictable, it could be a textbook example of behavioral economics. Within the first 2 months, Michael moved from a $1,400 per month apartment to a $2,100 per month one. The logic was sound. He could now afford it. He then traded in his used Honda Civic for a new Mazda CX-5 lease, $580 per month. I drive it every day, and I want to be comfortable. After 6 months, he started eating lunch at restaurants near work instead of the office cafeteria. The average lunch bill was $18 to $22. Fridays were happy hour with coworkers because he was now working in a different environment where that was the norm. By the end of his first year with his new salary, Michael was spending $96,400 per year. He was earning $95,000. This isn't a story about stupidity. Michael is a smart man. This is a story about a mechanism that operates within almost all of us and which no one has ever explained to him. Here's what few people understand. The problem isn't that people can't count. According to the Federal Reserve, the average American family with an income over $100,000 saves less than 10% of their income, and most of that savings goes into a 401k only because their employer automatically deducts contributions. Remove automatic deductions, and savings drop even lower. The problem isn't math. The problem is psychology, shaped over decades by marketing, social comparison, and the perfectly natural workings of the human brain. This mechanism has a name. Economists call it lifestyle inflation, or lifestyle creep, a gradual, often invisible expansion of spending that follows any increase in income. And this phenomenon is far more insidious than it seems at first glance. It's not about you buying a yacht after getting a raise. It's about you starting to take Uber instead of the bus. About you stopping to check prices on menus. About you subscribing to 3 more streaming services because, well, it's only $15 a month. It's a quiet, gradual, and completely logical, step-by-step movement towards zero in your bank account. The Bureau of Labor Statistics finds that when an American's income grows by 10%, their expenses increase by an average of 12 to 14% over the next 12 months. Not 10%, 12 to 14%. A salary increase literally generates expenses with interest. Now I'll tell you exactly how this happens, step by step, decision by decision, each of which seems perfectly reasonable at the time. We'll explore the psychology that makes lifestyle creep practically inevitable without conscious counteraction. We'll look at the real anatomy of a well-off person's budget and see where exactly the money disappears. We'll calculate the cost of this invisible drain over 20 to 30 years. And we'll discuss what to actually do about it, not in theory, but in practice. Because the difference between someone who makes $100,000 and retires at 65 with true financial freedom and someone who makes the same $100,000 and continues working at 65 because they can't afford to stop, that difference is almost never about the salary. It's about what happened with each raise. And we need to start with one question that most people never ask themselves. Why is your brain programmed to spend exactly as much as you earn? And a little more. Your brain doesn't want you to be rich. It wants you to be normal. This isn't a metaphor or self-criticism. It's neurobiology. And understanding this mechanism is the only way to begin to work with it. In the 1970s, psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell described a phenomenon they called hedonic adaptation. The concept is both simple and devastating. A person adapts to any standard of living in approximately 3 to 6 months. What was a luxury in January becomes the norm by July. What was once the norm begins to feel like deprivation. When you fly business class for the first time, it's a milestone. When you fly business class every quarter on business trips, it's the standard. When you're bumped to economy one day, it feels like a punishment. Your absolute conditions haven't changed. The benchmark has. This is exactly what happens with every salary increase. During the first 2 weeks after a raise, people experience a real boost. According to research from Princeton University, this feeling of financial satisfaction begins to level off once annual income exceeds approximately $75,000 to $100,000, depending on the region. Above this point, each additional raise brings progressively less emotional satisfaction. But this doesn't stop expenses from rising. Expenses rise regardless of whether you're happier or not. Now comes the most interesting part, and something that financial advisors rarely talk about openly. Lifestyle creep doesn't work through big decisions. It works through small, perfectly logical decisions, each of which, taken individually, raises no questions. Let's take a concrete example. Someone gets a raise from $65,000 to $85,000. The increase is $20,000 per year, or about $1,250 per month after federal and state taxes. What happens next? First decision. I'm not going to buy the cheapest groceries at the supermarket anymore. I'm going to buy real meat and real vegetables. The difference is an extra $150 a month in groceries. Totally reasonable. Second decision. My neighborhood was okay, but now I have the opportunity to move closer to work, to a safer area. The difference in rent is an extra $400 per month. Totally logical. Third solution. I used to go to a cheap barber shop every 2 months to get my hair cut. Now I go to a decent place once a month. Plus $60 a month. Solution 4. I can afford a better gym with a pool. Plus $85 a month instead of $35. Fifth solution. What clothes? I'm in a different position now, so I need to look the part. Plus $100 a month on average. Sixth decision. Vacation. I used to drive to the neighboring state. Now I can fly somewhere decent. Converted to monthly savings, plus $150. Let's add it up. $150 plus $400 plus $60 plus $85 plus $100 plus $150. That's $945 a month in new expenses. Remember, that after-tax increase was $1,250 a month? That leaves $305 left, and that's just the first round of decisions. Because a new apartment in a new neighborhood means new social contacts. New social contacts mean a new spending context. A new spending context means new norms. This brings us to an important point that psychologists call social comparison, and which has taken on a whole new dimension in the age of social media. According to the American Psychological Association, people evaluate their financial situation not in absolute terms, but relative to their immediate environment. Not, can I afford this, but do the people around me do this? This evolutionary mechanism helped our ancestors navigate social hierarchy. In 2026, it helps marketers sell you things you don't need. When Michael, that same Michael from Austin, moved to a new neighborhood and started interacting with colleagues at his new job, his reference group changed. His friends used to drink $12 six-packs of beer and watch football at home. Now, his colleagues frequented craft beer bars, where cocktails cost $16, and discussed the latest restaurants to open in the area. He hadn't made a decision to spend more. What was considered normal had simply changed. According to a study in the Journal of Consumer Research, people whose income increased and who simultaneously changed their social circles increased their spending on status goods and services on average 31% faster than those whose social circles remain the same. Changing social circles is a lifestyle creep factor. Here's what few people understand. Hedonic adaptation has no ceiling. There's no income level at which the brain automatically says, "That's enough, I'll save the rest now." Research shows that this mechanism works the same whether you earn $50,000 or $500,000. People earning $500,000 a year also live paycheck to paycheck. Their paycheck is just higher, and their expenses look different. Private jets instead of business class. A second home instead of a first. But the structure is the same. A study by Ramsey Solutions of more than 10,000 American millionaires revealed something unexpected. The vast majority never earned exceptionally high salaries. The median income during their peak years was around $100,000 to $130,000 per year. They didn't become millionaires because they earned more than anyone else. They became millionaires because their spending didn't follow their income. But there's another aspect that makes this trap especially difficult to escape. Lifestyle inflation doesn't just create habits, it creates commitments. Fixed, difficult to reverse financial obligations. When you moved into a $2,100 apartment, you signed a one-year lease. When you leased a car for $580 per month, you locked in that expense for 3 years. By enrolling your children in private school, you created an expense that's socially very difficult to reverse. Every decision made on the wave of new income becomes a structural element of the budget. And when your income temporarily declines due to a job change, illness, or an economic downturn, you find yourself trapped. Your expenses are fixed. Your income is not. According to the 2022 Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, American families with incomes between $75,000 and $149,000 have a median liquid savings of $8,700. That doesn't sound so bad until you realize that their monthly expenses at that income typically range from $6,500 to $9,000. That means the average American with a good income has a buffer of about 1 month. 1 month of financial security at an income most people would consider wealth. Let's calculate what this means in real money. Let's say someone earns $90,000 per year. That's $7,500 per month gross, or about $5,600 per month after federal, state, Social Security, and Medicare taxes. We'll use the average, depending on the state. If that person spends $5,400 per month, the average person with that income spends, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they'll have $200 per month left over. $2,400 per year. At that rate, accumulating an emergency fund equal to 3 months' worth of expenses, $16,200, would take almost 7 years. 7 years to create a basic financial cushion. And this doesn't take into account the fact that expenses also grow every year. Inflation, new obligations, children, health. Now let me show you exactly what this budget looks like from the inside, because the devil, as always, is in the details. Let's open the budget. Not an abstract budget, not a textbook example. A real, composite portrait of a person who exists in America in huge numbers. Educated, working, earning good money, and constantly wondering where it goes. Let's call him Daniel. He's 34 years old. He lives in Denver, Colorado. He works as a product manager at a tech company. His salary is $105,000 per year. By any standard, he's a well-off guy. He's in the top 20% of income earners in the country. Let's start with what Daniel takes home. Federal taxes, Colorado state tax at 4.4%, Social Security at 6.2%, Medicare at 1.45%, 401k contributions, let's say a modest 6% to get a full employer match. The total after all deductions, approximately $5,900 per month. This is the money that actually goes into the account. Now, the expenses. Housing. Daniel rents a one-bedroom apartment in the Capitol Hill neighborhood for $1,850 per month. That's quite reasonable for Denver. Utilities add $120. Total, $1,970. That's 33% of net income, well within the standard no more than 30% recommendation, though it's already on the borderline. Transportation. Daniel bought a 3-year-old Toyota RAV4 on credit 2 years ago. Monthly payment, $520. Insurance, $145 per month. Denver, 34 years old, clean history. Gas, $90. Office parking, $75 per month. Total transportation, $830 per month. Food, groceries, $400 per month. Restaurants and delivery. This is where things get interesting. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Americans aged 25 to 44 spend an average of $387 per month on eating out. Daniel spends about the same. Lunch with coworkers 4 times a week, $15 on average. Dinners on weekends, and the occasional Uber Eats on weekdays when he's tired. Total, $780 per month on food. Subscriptions. Let's do the math. Netflix, $22.99. Spotify, $10.99. Hulu, $17.99. Amazon Prime, $14.99 per month. Apple iCloud, $2.99. LinkedIn Premium, $39.99. Promised to myself to cancel, didn't. Gym membership, $55. Some meditation app, $12.99. Total subscriptions, $177 per month. According to research by West Monroe Partners, the average American underestimates their subscription spending by about half, thinking they're spending $80 but actually spending $219. Clothing and personal expenses. Daniel isn't a shopaholic, but he does have new sneakers every 6 months, jeans, office shirts, a haircut once a month, $45, and personal care. On average, he spends about $280 a month. Phone, $85 per month. Unlimited data plan. Entertainment and social life. Concerts, sporting events, bars with friends, birthday presents, weddings. Daniel is at the age when everyone is getting married. Gifts and flights to friends' weddings in other states have cost $2,400 in the last year alone. This comes to an average of $350 per month. Credit card. Daniel has a $4,200 balance on his credit card. He doesn't consider it a problem, paying the minimum payment plus a small amount, $180 per month. At an interest rate of 24.9% per annum, the standard for 2024 to 2025, according to the Federal Reserve, most of that payment goes to interest. Now, let's add it up. Housing, $1,970. Transportation, $830. Food, $780. Subscriptions, $177. Clothing/personal, $280. Phone, $85. Entertainment/social, $350. Credit card, $180. Total, $5,652 per month. Take-home pay, $5,900 per month. Remaining, $248 per month. And we haven't even factored in medical expenses beyond insurance. The average American spends about $1,300 per year on copays, medications, and tests. We haven't factored in car repairs and maintenance, $1,200 per year on average. We haven't factored in vacations. Even a modest vacation costs $2,000 to $4,000. We haven't factored in Christmas gifts. The average American spends $997 per year on holiday gifts, according to Gallup. If you break these irregular expenses down by month, $1,300 plus $1,200 plus $2,500 plus $997 equals $5,997. Divide by 12, that's $500 per month, which Daniel simply doesn't have in his budget. Daniel doesn't live a luxurious life. He doesn't own a yacht. He doesn't fly first class. He simply lives like a normal person in an American city, with the normal expenses of a normal person his age and income. And every month, he either breaks even or is slightly in the red. And in months with unexpected expenses, those that are actually completely expected, just unplanned, he's $300 to $500 in the red. That's why he has $901 in his emergency fund. This is a real figure, not a made-up one. According to bank rate data from 2024, 36% of Americans couldn't cover an unexpected $400 expense from their savings. Among those with incomes of $50,000 to $99,000, the figure was 27%. Nearly a third of people with decent incomes are one broken air conditioner away from financial stress. But there is another layer to this problem that makes it particularly complex. Take another look at Daniel's budget. What can be cut? Technically, a lot. In practice, every cut costs something beyond money. Move to a cheaper apartment? That means either a worse location, worse conditions, or a change in the neighborhood where he's already made connections. Sell his car and switch to public transportation? It's doable in Denver, but it means an extra hour and a half a day of commuting. Stop having lunch with coworkers? That's social capital, which impacts his career. Cancel LinkedIn Premium? It might be reasonable, but it's psychologically taxing. What if the right job opens up right now? Every expense has not only a financial dimension, but also a social, psychological, and career dimension. And that's precisely why lifestyle inflation is so persistent. It's not just habits. It's identity, social connections, and professional image. Cutting expenses doesn't feel like a financial decision. It feels like a step back, like an admission of defeat, a signal to others that something has gone wrong. Let's consider what happens to this budget when Daniel gets another raise, say to $125,000. A $20,000 raise is about $1,100 per month after taxes. What happens to that $1,100? According to a study in the Journal of Economic Psychology, within the first 6 months of a raise, more than 70% of recipients increase their fixed expenses by an amount equal to 80 to 90% of the increase. For Daniel, this means, after 6 months, his expenses will increase by approximately $880 to $990 per month. Not because he's decided to spend extravagantly, simply a nicer apartment, $300, a higher-end car, or paying off the current loan plus a new one, more frequent dining out, his first major vacation abroad, calculated per month. It's all logical, it's all reasonable, and altogether, a disaster in slow motion. This brings us to what's happening on the social dimension, perhaps the most underestimated force that drives people's financial decisions. There's an expense that doesn't appear in any financial app. It's not listed under housing or transportation, yet it's present in the budget of almost every person with an above-average income, and it grows disproportionately as income rises. Let's call it a tax on belonging. This is the total cost of looking, behaving, and consuming at a level appropriate to your social and professional group. It's not a luxury. It's a perceived necessity. I know a woman. I'll call her Andrea. She works as a senior analyst at a consulting firm in Chicago. She makes $118,000 a year, plus a bonus. By any standard, it's a great position. When I asked her about her finances, she said something I've heard in various forms dozens of times since. I make good money, but I always feel like I'm barely making it. Here are her expenses, which she herself does not identify as extra. Workwear. Andrea works at a company with a business casual dress code. Her colleagues wear Theory suits, Reese blouses, and Sam Edelman shoes. She spends about $3,600 a year on her work wardrobe. It's an investment in your career, she says. That may be true, but it also costs $300 a month to maintain the group's standards. Dining out with clients and colleagues. When partners at the firm go out to lunch, they go to places where meals cost $45 to $65 per person. Andrea doesn't pay for these meals herself. The firm reimburses her entertainment expenses. But evenings with colleagues, congratulations, and informal get-togethers all come out of pocket. She estimates it's about $400 per month. Neighborhood and housing. Andrea lives in River North, one of Chicago's most popular neighborhoods. Her two-bedroom apartment rents for $2,800 per month. She could pay $1,900 for a similar apartment in Logan Square, 20 minutes away by subway. That's a $900 per month difference. Why doesn't she do it? All my friends live here or nearby. If I moved to Logan Square, it just wouldn't be the same. This is the tax on belonging. $900 a month for the right to live in the right place. According to a Pew Research Center study, 72% of Americans with incomes above $75,000 say they compare their lifestyle to that of those around them. For those with incomes below $40,000, this figure is 54%. The higher the income, the stronger the social comparison. This is because higher income means a higher social group. A higher social group means higher consumption standards that are considered the norm. Now, the most interesting thing is what Instagram and social networks have done with this mechanism. Before social media, people compared themselves to those in their immediate circle. Neighbors, colleagues, relatives. It was a limited circle. Now, people constantly see curated highlight reels of the lives of 100, 300, 1,000 acquaintances, and each one shows their best. A vacation in Amalfi, a new apartment after renovation, dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant. According to a study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, people who spend more than 2 hours a day on social media spend an average of 17% more on discretionary expenses, restaurants, travel, clothing, than people with similar incomes who spend less than half an hour on social media. Social media is literally expensive. But there is another mechanism that is rarely discussed: professional pressure on consumption. In many industries, tech, finance, consulting, law, there's an unspoken link between visible consumption and professional status. The car you drive, the neighborhood you live in, the restaurants you frequent, the hotel you stay at on business trips. For some people, it's more than just a lifestyle choice. It's a signal to the labor market. I'm successful. I can be trusted. I'm at the right level. This creates a vicious circle. A person spends on maintaining a professional image in order to earn more, in order to spend more on maintaining the image. Let's calculate how much this affiliation tax actually costs the typical professional earning $100,000 to $120,000. Housing in the right neighborhood versus comparable housing in the wrong one. $500 to $1,000 per month difference. A work wardrobe of the appropriate standard. $200 to $350 per month. Social obligations. Restaurants, bars, gifts, events. $300 to $500 per month. A car of the appropriate class versus a reliable but modest option. $200 to $400 per month difference in payment and insurance. Total, $1,200 to $2,250 per month. The cost of belonging to a certain social and professional group. For the year, from $14,400 to $27,000. Now let's apply the opportunity cost formula to this. Let's say someone redirects $1,500 per month from these expenses into investments, an index fund tied to the S&P 500 with a historical average return of about 8% per annum over the long term. Over 20 years at 8%, $1,500 in monthly investments would be worth approximately $876,000. Over 30 years, more than $2,040,000. $2 million. That's the price of belonging in the right circle, measured in foregone future wealth. One thing is important to note here. I'm not saying that social life has no value. Connections have value. Professional image has value. Quality of life has value. The question isn't whether to spend or not to spend. The question is, are you making conscious choices, or are you being driven by social autopilot? According to research by Ramsey Solutions, people with stable financial status, those who called themselves financially free, were distinguished from others by one key characteristic: not income level, not education, not luck. They were distinguished by the fact that most of their financial decisions were intentional. They knew what they were paying for and why. They didn't pay for belonging by default. There's a concept behavioral economists call stealth wealth. It's a philosophy embraced by many truly wealthy people, living significantly more modestly than their wealth allows, not displaying their wealth, and not paying wealth taxes. Data from The Millionaire Next Door, a 20-year study conducted by Thomas Stanley, showed that most American millionaires live in homes valued under $500,000, drive cars they don't owe anything on, and shop at stores that would surprise you. The richest person in your circle is probably not the one who looks rich. And that brings us to the most mathematically important question. What does the difference look like between two people with the same income, one of whom follows lifestyle inflation and the other does not? Let me show you two parallel financial scenarios. Both are realistic. Both are based on real numbers. And the difference between them after 25 years is so vast that it looks like comparing people from different social classes, even though they started from the same place. Meet Kevin and James. They're both 30 years old. They live in Atlanta, Georgia. They both work in tech. They both earn $85,000 a year and get raises about every 3 years. By age 45, their salaries will reach $140,000 to $150,000, a realistic trajectory for their industry. The difference is that Kevin follows lifestyle inflation, while James uses what financial advisors call the frozen lifestyle rule. Every time his income grows, he puts 50% of the increase into investments and only allows himself to spend 50% on lifestyle improvements. Starting point, age 30. They both make $85,000. After taxes, it's about $5,400 a month. They both spend $5,000 a month. Housing, car, food, everything else. They both contribute 6% to their 401ks for a full employer match, which is already deducted before the money hits the account. They both have $400 a month in savings. James puts it in a Roth IRA. Kevin usually finds something to spend it on. First promotion, age 33. Both get a raise up to $100,000. After-tax benefit, approximately $850 per month. Kevin does what most people do. Moves to a nicer apartment, plus $400, leases a car, plus $250, and starts eating out more, plus $200. Total new expenses, $850. Savings increase, $0. James applies his rule. $425 of his increase goes into an index fund through a Roth IRA or brokerage account. $425 goes toward lifestyle improvements, a slightly nicer apartment, slightly better food. James's monthly investments outside of his 401k are $825, $400 old plus $425 new. Second promotion, age 36. Both reach $115,000. After-tax increase, about $800 more per month. Kevin is ramping up his spending again. A down payment on a house, no, that's good. But the house furnishings cost $15,000. A new car, no longer leased but financed, costs $680 a month. Travel has become more expensive. Europe instead of Florida. He's upping his 401k contribution to 10%. Good for him. But discretionary spending is eating up the rest. James applies the rule again. Of the $800 increase, $400 goes to investments. His monthly investments outside of his 401k are now $1,225. Third promotion, age 40. Both reach $130,000. It's a similar story. Kevin, at this income level, feels like he can finally afford what he's dreamed of, a house. A $2,800 per month mortgage is reasonable for his income. But repairs, furnishings, and maintenance cost another $600 to $800 per month in the first few years, plus the HOA fee of $380 per month. House poor, pure and simple. James continues. Monthly investments outside of 401k, $1,600 per month. Now let's look at the numbers at age 55. Kevin has contributed an average of $9,000 to $11,000 per year to his 401k over the past 25 years, including employer matching. Over 25 years, at an average annual return of 8%, that's about $750,000 to $820,000. That's good. But he lives with a mortgage, credit card debt of $12,000 to $18,000, a car loan, and a lifestyle that requires $9,000 to $10,000 per month to maintain. He has virtually no liquid savings outside of his 401k. If he loses his job or decides to retire before 65, it's a disaster. James invested the same amount of money in a 401k, about $800,000. But on top of that, he invested an average of $1,200 per month through a Roth IRA and brokerage account for 25 years. $1,200 per month at 8% annual interest over 25 years is about $1,140,000. Plus, he has a modest but paid-off car, no debt, and a lifestyle that costs $6,500 to $7,000 per month. Quite comfortable, just not overly so. Total assets at age 55. Kevin, $800,000 in 401k, approximately $0 in liquid investments, debts of $30,000 to $40,000, mortgage with a balance of $350,000. James, $800,000 in a 401k, $1,140,000 in a Roth IRA and brokerage account, $0 or so in debt, mortgage with a balance of $220,000. He was paying a little more. Difference in liquidity, over $1,100,000 in James's favor. But that's not all, because there's a factor that makes the difference even more stark. At 55, James can afford to consider early retirement or working part-time while pursuing his passions. Using the 4% rule, a standard financial planning guideline that ensures a portfolio is highly likely to last 30 years, his $1,140,000 in liquid assets yields $45,600 in annual passive income. That doesn't include his 401k, which he'll begin withdrawing from at age 59.5. Kevin, at 55, has to work. His lifestyle costs $9,000 to $10,000 a month, and without a salary, he has no way to maintain it. His 401k is locked in until age 59.5 without penalty. He's trapped in his own lifestyle. This isn't a story of sacrifice and asceticism. James lived well. He went on vacation, he had a decent car, a decent apartment, and then a house. He simply did it consciously, with a slight shift in priorities with each promotion. Let's calculate this shift in specific monetary increases. Each raise James received, on average, about $750 to $850 per month after taxes. He invested $375 to $425 of that. That's less than half of the raise. He never sacrificed the entire raise. He simply didn't let expenses consume it entirely. And this is where the central idea lies. According to a Vanguard Group study covering several million retirement accounts, the biggest impact on final wealth is not the choice of specific investments, market timing, or income level. Instead, one factor has the greatest impact: the savings rate. This refers to the percentage of income a person consistently saves, regardless of how much their income has grown. A person with an income of $80,000 and a savings rate of 20% will build significantly more wealth over the long run than a person with an income of $150,000 and a savings rate of 5%. This is the answer to the question, why income does not equal wealth. Now I'll tell you what you can actually do about this. Not just theory, not spend less. That's useless advice. But concrete mechanisms that work precisely because they take psychology into account, not ignore it. Here's what doesn't work. Creating a budget from scratch and promising yourself, "I'll be disciplined now," doesn't work. According to a study in the Journal of Consumer Research, more than 78% of people who create a detailed monthly budget on their own initiative abandon it within 3 months. Willpower is an unreliable financial tool. It wears thin. It's subject to mood, fatigue, and social pressure. Saving what's left over doesn't work. Research by behavioral economist Shlomo Benartzi, who has advised the U.S. Department of Labor on retirement savings, shows that when people save money based on the principle of what's left at the end of the month, the median savings rate is about 2.6%. When savings are automatically deducted at the beginning of the month, the median rate rises to 7.4%. Keep what's left, and there will be nothing left. There is automation and a structure that takes the decision out of the equation. Here's a specific system. I call it the increase protocol. It's not my invention. It's a synthesis of what works for people who ultimately build wealth despite the lifestyle inflation all around them. The first element is automatic increases to your 401k with every raise. Most employers in America offer auto escalation, an automatic annual contribution increase of 1 to 2%. If you haven't enabled it yet, do so today. It only takes 10 minutes in your company's HR system. But even more important, every time you get a raise, immediately increase your 401k contribution percentage. Money you've never seen in your account isn't perceived as available by your brain. You can't spend what you haven't accessed. For the 2025 to 2026 tax year, the 401k contribution limit is $23,500 per year, $30,500 if you're 50 or older. This is a huge tax shield that most people don't fully utilize. The second element is a Roth IRA as an automatic transfer on the first of the month. The Roth IRA contribution limit for 2025 to 2026 is $7,000 per year, $8,000 for those over 50, provided your income doesn't exceed certain thresholds. Set up an automatic transfer of $583 on the first day of each month. Not whenever you can, on the first of the month. This rule is called pay yourself first, and it's effective precisely because it removes the need to make a decision. A Roth IRA is a particularly powerful tool because the money in it grows tax-free, and you can withdraw it tax-free in retirement. For someone expecting a higher income in the future, this can be significantly more beneficial than a traditional IRA. The third element is the frozen lifestyle account. This is a separate high-yield savings account, a high-yield savings account, HYSA. Many online banks now offer rates of 4.5 to 5% per annum, significantly higher than traditional banks. After each increase, 50% of the increase goes into this account immediately, before you have time to adjust to the new income level. The remaining 50% can be spent as you please, without guilt. You earned it. You deserve it. It's just that half is working toward your future. Psychologically, this works precisely because it requires no sacrifice. You're not depriving yourself of anything. You're simply preventing new money from becoming a normal spending habit before some of it is safely stashed away. The fourth element is reviewing your subscriptions quarterly. Once every 3 months, preferably on the first weekend of each quarter, open your credit card statement and look for all recurring charges. Immediately cancel any you haven't used in the last 30 days. According to C+R research, the average American spends $219 per month on subscriptions, even though they think they spend around $86. That's a $133 monthly gap, or $1,596 per year on services you've forgotten about. The fifth element is the 72-hour rule for occasional purchases. Any purchase over $200 that isn't essential, clothing, gadgets, home decor, is postponed for 72 hours. If after 72 hours the desire still exists, and you can provide a specific reason why it's important, buy it. According to behavioral economics, about 65% of impulse purchases subside after a 48 to 72 hour break. This isn't asceticism. It's a filter against advertising and instant emotions. The sixth element is an emergency fund as a stress reliever. 3 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account is an emergency fund. This isn't savings. It's insurance that removes financial fear from the equation. According to the Federal Reserve, people with an emergency fund of 3 months' expenses make significantly better financial decisions in crisis situations, not because they're smarter, but because they have a buffer for calm thinking. If you don't already have an emergency fund, it's your top priority, above any investment. Yes, mathematically, investing money can earn 8% per annum, compared to 5% in HYSA. But without an emergency fund, the first unexpected $3,000 expense will go to a credit card at 24% interest, immediately erasing any investment benefit. Now, let's look at this system in action using specific numbers. Let's take a person with an income of $95,000. After taxes, that's about $5,700 per month. We'll apply the following system. 401k with employer match. Let's say 8% of $95,000 equals $7,600 per year, or $633 per month before taxes. Plus 4% employer match equals another $316. Total $949 per month in 401k. This is already deducted before the money appears in the account. Automatic conversion to Roth IRA on the first of the month. $583 per month. Lifetime remaining cost. $5,700 minus $583 equals $5,117 per month. With expenses of $4,500 to $4,700 per month, realistic for the Midwest or South, a person has $400 to $600 left over for an HYSA, for an emergency fund, or additional investments. Total investments: $949 in 401k, including match, plus $583 in Roth IRA equals $1,532 per month, or $18,384 per year. That's 19.4% of a gross income of $95,000, close to the gold standard of 20% savings rate. Over 25 years at 8% annual interest, $1,532 per month is approximately $1,375,000. Plus, the 401k tax shield and tax-free Roth IRA growth add significant value beyond the nominal amount. Important: this system doesn't require you to completely abandon lifestyle inflation. You can live better with every raise, just don't let your expenses grow faster than your investments. A 50% increase to live better is a fair trade-off with yourself. Regarding debt, high-interest credit cards, typically 20 to 29% APR in the current climate, should be eliminated before aggressively investing beyond a 401k match. The math is simple. No investment is guaranteed to return 25% annually. Paying off debt at 25% is a guaranteed 25% return. This isn't an opinion, it's arithmetic. According to Experian, the average American carries a credit card balance of about $6,501 as of 2024. At an average interest rate of 22%, that's $1,430 per year in interest alone. This is money that doesn't build wealth. Eliminating this balance is the first step to making your money work for you, not the bank. And the last thing I want to say about these practical tools: they don't work because they require willpower. They work because they remove decision-making from the equation. Automation beats discipline. Structure beats intention. A system that works without your daily involvement will always outperform a personal promise to start on Monday, because Mondays end, but compound interest doesn't. In the end, it's not all about money. Money is a tool, a neutral, silent tool that enhances what you already are. More money during lifestyle inflation means more anxiety, more obligations, more fear of losing what you've gained. More money through conscious choice means more options, more time, more freedom to be who you want to be. The real question behind all of this is, what are you actually buying? When Michael from Austin moved into a $2,100 apartment, he didn't just buy a place. He bought a feeling of belonging, that he'd made it, that his promotion was real. When Andrea from Chicago pays $900 a month for the right neighborhood, she buys belonging, a feeling of being in the right place with the right people. These are all genuine, real needs. The need for status, acceptance, respect. They're deeply human. The question isn't whether you have them. The question is whether you understand what you're buying and whether it's worth the price you pay. Wealth in its true sense isn't a sum in a bank account. It's a reserve of independence. It's the number of months you can live without work, without fear. It's the ability to say no to a job you hate, a person who humiliates you, or a situation that harms you, simply because you don't have to endure it. According to a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, a sense of financial security, not wealth, but safety, a buffer, a reserve, correlates significantly more strongly with subjective happiness than absolute income. People aren't happier because they earn more. They're happier because they don't worry about money. They're not the same thing. Every dollar you don't spend on showing off your success is a dollar that buys you something real. Time, choice, silence in your head at 3 a.m. when you don't have to count on whether you'll last until the next paycheck. Lifestyle inflation doesn't make you happier. It makes you normal. It makes you just like everyone else. But just like everyone else in America is the 63% of people who wouldn't survive a missed check. That's the person with a $120,000 income and $700 in savings. That's Michael, whose expenses exceeded his income 6 months after the hike. Normal in this country is expensive. You've earned the right to choose something different, not asceticism, not poverty, not the denial of all that's good in life, simply awareness of where exactly you set your saturation point. Because that point won't come on its own. It will always be pushed further by marketing, comparison, habit, and social group. The only person who can fix it is you. Income isn't wealth. Wealth is the gap between what you earn and what you need. And that gap can be created at any income level, or destroyed, also at any level. Choices don't happen once in a lifetime at some major crossroads. They happen every time you get a raise notification, every time you open a delivery app on a tired Tuesday, every time a new iPhone comes out before the old one stops working. Small decisions, made consciously, over and over again. That's the difference.